Gut, ich lasse das mal laufen, werde mich derweil kurz verabschieden und wenn ich nach dem Film noch nicht da sein sollte, schneide ich es dann raus und gehe halt nach und nach das Ganze durch. So, würde sagen, Film ab.
When we set out to work on our next-gen game for the PlayStation 3, we really wanted to do something special, something that was completely different that nobody's ever seen before. You know, we looked at what was out there, the landscape of games that were being developed, and everything sort of had this dark and gray or brown look to it. So we wanted to go completely opposite that, and we wanted to have a game that when somebody just caught it out of the corner of their eye, walking past it in the store, they'd be drawn to it right away and just have to check it out and see what's this game all about.
I think one of the key of Uncharted that's gonna really stand out is the fact that everything looks real, and the player is gonna be immersed completely into that game because you can believe that you are in that jungle. You're gonna see plants moving. You're gonna see real-time lights like the sun and the refraction for the world. Like all these things, all these details that you see every day. We were able to produce all of that.
When we set off to make a brand new franchise, what we wanted to do was sort of embrace the action-adventure genre in its sort of classic form, but in a contemporary context.
So we looked at a load of those matinee serials from the 30s, lots of chases, running around looking for treasure, unlikely allegiances with a whole crazy cast of characters, lots of narrow escapes and risky situations. So we took all of this stuff and then started to look at how we might be able to reinvent it for the 21st century.
With the look of Uncharted, we wanted it to stand out from all the other games that are being developed of the next generation consoles. We wanted it to have this lush, organic feel. We didn't want to have the same gritty and dark corridors that so many of these games have you running around shooting aliens and fighting monsters in. We wanted you to be in this lush tropical jungle that really immersed you and made you feel like you could feel the moisture in the air.
It's a stylized reality, and there's a little bit of vividness in the colors that we're choosing, and everything's got this sort of larger-than-life quality.
Naughty Dog has a legacy to try and put its mark in the art world and in games. So shapes and color both have a lot to do with the readability of an environment, leading the player into an environment, and how you're supposed to feel inside of that environment.
So with the power of the PlayStation 3, we really felt like we could create environments that were believable and authentic. So we did a lot of research and tons of photo reference, but we also tried to put a twist on it and give it our own style. So our concept artists would take these photos and embellish them and really set the direction for the overall look of Uncharted.
We invested a lot of time in our rendering engine to make sure that the differences in texture between a glossy palm frond and the rough surface of some stone would really be a good, clear read for the player and just lend all of this believability to the environment.
We always try to have some things that's in a game that never been done before. Water was one of them, and we are really happy because it adds a lot to the realism of our jungle.
Whether it's ocean, whether it's a river, a stream, a puddle, a waterfall, we really wanted to make sure that, you know, water was everywhere and that we were going to try to display it in a way that it was never possible before on a previous generation of hardware. So we wanted the story in Uncharted to have historical relevance. So we decided to focus on a historical figure that, you know, everybody knew from their 4th grade social study class, you know, Sir Francis Drake. He was out there basically robbing the ships that were coming back to Spain with all this gold from the New World. And we wanted to explore the areas that were kind of foggy in the history books where, you know, maybe not all the details were clear. And then what we did is we ran with it and explored the what if. What if Sir Francis Drake did have children? So our hero, Nathan Drake, believes himself to be a descendant of Sir Francis Drake, and there's treasure out there all over the place, and it's Nathan's job to go find it. So the gameplay in Uncharted is unique. We really wanted to bring together elements that were in other games, but combine them in a way that you've never seen in a single game before. So we have three pillars of gameplay. We have our traversal or platforming mechanics that, you know, we've explored heavily in our past games in Crash Bandicoot and Jak and Daxter. But we wanted to combine that with some really fast action, over-the-top gunplay, and then mix it in with the hand-to-hand melee combat as well. A combination of mechanics and interactions that, you know, you really haven't seen put together in the same way ever before.
My main focus on making Uncharted was gameplay, was how does the game feel? How does the game interact with the player? How does the world interact with the player? How enjoyable is the game? What's the fun factor on the game? And if it isn't fun, we try again. We come up with something new and do it again. We iterated hundreds of times on almost every major mechanic in the game. Our first several attempts at Drake looked fantastic, just like the final product, but they didn't feel good. It has to feel like a Naughty Dog game. It has to be on a dime, responsive. It requires just a lot of back and forth between a programmer and an animator. Making games is not a science, and we don't have a magic formula. We just put in the hard work to make something good, and we just keep trying things until we find something that works.
Okay, bin auch schon wieder da und ich würde sagen, wir gehen mal zu Teil 2 über.
We drew a lot of our inspiration for our characters from the classic pulp action-adventure stories that you've seen in books and movies and comics.
One of the hallmarks of this genre is the fact that you have a very relatable hero who's kind of an everyman.
All of the heroes are really recognizable human beings with all of our strengths and flaws. And we figured out that that was something very important for helping audiences connect with the character.
This is finally it.
It's not just the fact that you have chases and gunfights and a heroine and all this other kind of stuff. It's the fact that the characters are real people. They can make mistakes, but be heroic.
Nathan Drake is our hero, and he's the kind of guy who knows how to handle himself in a tight situation. But he's really just a guy in a t-shirt who finds himself in a difficult situation and has to rely on his wits a lot to save the day. Elena's a really cool character. I think she's something a little bit new and different for video games. She's a bright, self-sufficient young woman. She's very curious. She has this strong intellectual drive, has a kind of unconventional beauty. And there's this immediate chemistry between her and Nathan that really helps drive the story forwards.
What's going on?
Pirates!
Pirates?
Then there's the character of Victor Sullivan. He's kind of that guy's guy adventurer. He's the consummate con man in a world of con men.
There's nothing here, Nate. Let's just keep that between us.
For the first time in Uncharted, we actually had to cast actors who had stage or TV or film experience because we were doing motion capture for all of our cinematic cutscenes. So we have real stage and film actors coming in, getting in the motion capture suit, recording their voice while they're acting out the scene, which I think is really important because you capture that moment rather than having them try to pantomime to some voice dialogue they've already recorded.
The physicality that's demanded in doing motion capture and creating, you know, an action film, essentially, has been tricky. All the stunt work we have to do here, I mean, I go, is this my job? This is so much fun. But at the same time, the next day, I'm like, oh my word, I am so incredibly sore.
Well, I think the coming together of film, stage, and video and games is happening right here on the mocap stage. I really stage things as if I was doing a play or a scene from a movie.
I had no experience. I was flying by the seat of my pants the whole time, scared to death, and having a great time. You know, in front of a camera for film or for TV, you've got a set, and the other actors that are there with you are in their costumes. Here, you all look very silly. You look like you're wearing a wetsuit with dots on it. And so it really requires you to exercise your imagination even more.
It's like the three of us have this tree house that we built, and we're doing missions, and it really makes you feel like you're on an adventure.
I have a 7-year-old little boy who asked me, "Dad, what do you do?" And I said, "Well, you remember when your buddy came over the other day and you guys ran around the backyard and the clubhouse became a pirate ship and you were jumping off?" And he said, "Yeah." I said, "That's what I do."
The hell?
This is not a period historical adventure. It's a contemporary adventure. And so if we went with completely a classic approach to the music, kind of big orchestra, big traditional instruments used in traditional ways, to me that would have felt out of sync.
Working in the action-adventure genre musically, you can frequently find yourself falling into a lot of cliche sort of action-adventure things musically. So we've tried really hard throughout the project to do things that people have never heard before.
So the composer that we sought out actually is a guy named Greg Edmondson. Really great guy, really talented, and he's the guy that did all of the music for the television series Firefly. The way he was able to take unexpected instruments and use them to sort of support the story in this adventure, I thought, well, here's a guy I think who could get what we're after.
Because you were on this island and you did not know where you were, and you were searching for something primitive, they thought this would be fun to use unusual instruments that don't get used a lot, and to use things that we do here, but not to use them in a normal way. And that sounded really intriguing to me. I like that kind of stuff. You can get all sorts of strange, unusual, weird ethnic instruments and play them in any number of ways, and it's just fun to do.
He left a lot of room in the music, and he infused a lot of rhythmic excitement into the music so that it's both engaging melodically and texturally, but it's also very malleable for us in post. We can shape it to the world and let the world breathe and let the sounds of the jungle come through.
One of the things we try to do with each game we create at Naughty Dog is make it a technical showcase for the PlayStation hardware. So we've got a team of the best engineers in the industry working on this game, and I think we're really going to set the bar for PlayStation 3.
We wanted this game to be fun with a ton of different interactions, a ton of different mechanics, but at the same time, we wanted a really good story, to have Drake be a real guy, a character, somebody that I can play, that I can interact with. That was the goal, and that's what we accomplished.
We've created a contemporary action-adventure set in the real world. It's not a fantasy game. It's very much rooted in the reality that we all know. And yet, we really recapture all the romanticism in the original sense of telling a tale of heroic actions. So all of this stuff is really coming together to lend an incredible reality to our player character that I think audiences have really connected to.
I think there's a huge value in going outside your comfort zone. You just don't go right to the obvious. Now, it makes everything much harder, but in the end, it's all worth it. Get something that people haven't seen before.
I'll be damned.
I'm most excited about how fun it is to play and how you just lose yourself in the environment and the world that we've created. You know, I mean, when you pick up that controller, it's really easy to have fun, to be powerful, and feel like you are the action hero.
Okay, das war ja auch sehr interessant. Gut, es gibt noch das und das und das und das und das. Gut, ich denke mal, das Behind the Scenes tut's fürs Erste schon mal. Wenn ihr Interesse habt und diese ganzen Filmchen auch noch sehen wollt, dann sagt mir einfach Bescheid und ich werde in einem oder 2 extra Parts nochmal diese Filmreihe hier abspielen. Ansonsten wird es zu viel zum Cutten momentan. Gut, ich würde sagen, das war's aber diesmal wirklich von Uncharted. Drakes Schicksal. Was habe ich an Schätzen noch hier alles? Ach ja, was wir alles gefunden haben, kann man mal sehen. Es war nicht viel, aber wir haben zumindest ein bisschen was gefunden. Na gut, 14 von 60 natürlich ist wenig, aber ist besser als nichts. Ich habe auch später, muss ich sagen, nicht mehr so richtig darauf geachtet, auf die Schätze. Da ich halt auch so konzentriert auf das Spiel war. Ja, Medaillen haben wir auch einige bekommen. Realschläge. Da bin ich ganz zufrieden mit dem Ergebnis hier. Na gut, das ist natürlich ziemlich hart. Ja, wir haben eine Menge bekommen. Okay, normal gibt es keinen, oder? Achso, wahrscheinlich gibt es auch schwer Nummer ein, aber die... Ja, man kann es ja jetzt auswählen und ja. Dann halt die ganzen Schätze nochmal jagen. Gut, das war's aber diesmal wirklich von Uncharted Drakes Schicksal. Bis zum nächsten Mal, Leute. Ciao.